First off, thank you very much, TEDxDSU, for allowing me the opportunity to have this conversation with you guys. Thank you for the awesome introduction. I'd like to start with a little thought. Maybe about 10 years of age, I got a phone call from a family friend of ours, and that person kind of mistook me as my sister. And he basically addressed me as my sister, purely because of the high vocal pitch of hers. And I felt a little offended, I must say. But from then on, my early signs of being an artist started brewing. I've gone through dental school. I've done about 12 or 13 different careers. But at all points in time, if anyone would ask me, even if you wake me up in the middle of the night and say, "What do you do for a living?" I would say I'm a professional voiceover artist. That one career has allowed me to communicate with people from all across the globe over the last 23 years. And it's a fascinating thing to do. It's a fascinating place to be. The things that we get kind of introduced to much before everybody else it's amazing. These are some of the companies that I've had the opportunity to work with over the last 23 years. And this has come purely because of fascinating conversations. Have you ever recorded your voices on your phones or probably in a microphone like this? Right? Some of us, even when you're sending voice notes to family, sometimes you listen back to it just to figure out whether it sounds okay. Right? Now imagine when you listen to that, a lot of the times we say, "It doesn't sound like me, it sounds like somebody else. Maybe it's not me," and then you listen to it again. Now imagine if you have the opportunity to listen to your voice, but it's not you. So a couple of years ago, I had this opportunity. Someone actually played an audio of mine saying, "Review this, let me know if it's good to go for production." And I said, okay. I put my headphones on and I started listening to it. And I listened to a voice that sounded smooth, it sounded suave, it sounded amazing, it sounded confident. But it wasn't me. I didn't say anything like that. For a moment, I was stunned. You know, sometimes you understand that AI is coming for your jobs, and that was my moment. That was a problem. It wasn't me. It sounded perfect, but it wasn't me. I thought, wow, this is amazing. But for a moment, I had this oh no moment, because it felt like somebody had taken my face, gone off and done something that I would never do, and then gave it back to me. You know that feeling? That's what I felt like. And it put me in a situation where I had to ask this question, which is, if I'm not a voiceover artist, then what am I? If I'm not a performer, then what am I? You know, being a voiceover artist is not just a job. It's a part of your identity. It's who you are. You were speaking about letting go of identity, irrespective of what it may be, because you're faced with a situation. At that point, you're just a soldier, right? Civilians have similar situations, but at that point, we have to really think about what our identities are. I loved being, and I still do, love being an artist. And the reason why is, you walk into these studios, some of them are smelling of burnt coffee, cigarettes, sweat, anxiety, performance. And you feel alive in a place like that. You get to meet people who give you extremely strange direction. Like sound like you're happy, but don't have a smile on your face. Sound like you're a fish that's being drowning underwater. And this is actual direction that I've got. My voiceover career started in 2000, the early 2000s. In that era, you walk into the studio, you finish a recording, and then you walk out. You feel like you've left a part of you in someone else's story. That's how connected you feel to whatever it is that you're voicing. It's not perfect, but it was alive. And if you made a mistake, you wouldn't hit undo. You would take a breath, read through it again, have a couple of conversations, and then you would take another crack at it. You know, my family never really understood. They always asked me, like, what do you do for a living? Like, we sent you to dental school, we spent a lot of money putting you through dental school. What do you do today? Talk for a living. And this is professional. Yeah. And you get paid for this? Pretty much. For talking. Yes. You get paid. Absolutely. And they, interesting. I loved it. Because I knew for once this was something that I created for myself. Even though I've done so many other things, nobody else could take the credit of me being an artist. Speaking is not just about making sounds, right? It's about connecting with people. And at the same time, doing professional voiceovers is not just about making sounds and a lot of money, but it's about narrating a story, connecting with someone, letting them know about how you feel and how you think. There's intent involved in what is being translated. And I think being a voiceover artist was how I felt useful in the world. Not that being a dentist wasn't being useful, I loved being a dentist, but I just didn't connect with it. It was the way that I felt seen, the way that I felt valuable. It was something that, you know, it's like a party favor. You go into a party, you're talking to people, and they'll be like, what do you do? Oh, engineer. What do you do? Oh, doctor. What do you do? Lawyer. And then they look at me, they're like, what do you do? And I'll be like, I voice for a living. So, and a lot of the times, the attention would just come to be like, tell us more. That's interesting. And all throughout that, suddenly, there was this flood. A flood of apps, a flood of technologies. And you never really kind of prepare for the time or the moment where you don't really need to stand in front of a microphone anymore. You just need to have a great model for your own voice, even. For a moment, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I don't have to ever be spending time in a studio anymore recording my voice. This is fascinating. I wonder who created this stuff. And this was just about 4 years ago. Then instantly came this panic. Because you start reassessing your life decisions. Because this didn't take a break. It didn't need to pee. It could work 24/7. It was cost effective. It didn't have any complaints. Didn't take a breath in between. It was near perfect. And then you start asking a question as to, where do I fit in? And that moment changed my career. Because it forced me to confront something that's a little deeper, something that's way beyond just technology, but something that's very deeply rooted, which is my identity. Because I was a voiceover artist, and I am a voiceover artist. Now, there's something that can do my job 10, 100, 20 times better than me. You start asking yourself, are you in the right industry or not? That moment made me confront my years of training, my craft, my abilities, the connections that I had, and it just made me feel replaceable. And there's nothing more destabilizing than realizing that you're not necessary anymore. That's very, very daunting. And it's not just a career threat, it's identity theft to a certain degree. Anybody faced identity theft in your lives? Anyone has any experience with that? Now, I wasn't losing income. That wasn't my problem. My problem was losing relevance. Because every time I would call up a client saying, hey, you have any voice work to be done? They'd be like, well, maybe not now. And I soon saw that happening. It's funny how when you start losing something externally, you start feeling that internally as well. It affects you. Because it's not just your voice, there's meaning attached to it. So I did something that terrified me, something that I never thought that I would do. I quit. I stopped. I stopped voicing for about 3 years. I stopped connecting with clients. I stopped any scripts, any projects that came my way. I stopped producing. I produced for about 15 years. And I stopped all of it. Only because I wanted to listen to what stuck after all the noise settled. And I think that moment, it allowed for me to recognize that that silence taught me more than any microphone ever could. I started to remember, I sat in my studio just quietly, just looking at the microphone as though it was some long-lost ex, just thinking about, what am I today? Who am I today? And I think that's when it just struck me that my voice is no longer just a skill. It's not just something that I do. It's a signal. And that signal is not just something that carries a sound, my voice, but it carries intent, it carries tension, and it carries an underlying truth. I'm just carrying notes so that I don't forget what I have to say. So, a friend asked me, what do you miss the most about being an artist? When I stopped. And I had to think deep because I thought it was about the studio and about the scripts and about meeting people and money. And I thought it was all of that. And then it slowly dawned upon me that it wasn't that. It was basically connecting with people. I soon realized that through my voice, for 23 years, I've connected with I don't know how many millions of people across the globe. I voiced for the UNDP, so every time someone from any part of the world that was attached to the UN would move to another place, they would go through an entire 60-day kind of program, and that entire thing was voiced by me. And I had to take them through that entire process of transitioning from one country to the other, sometimes conflict spaces, sometimes regular civilian areas. I was speaking to people that I never imagined I would be speaking to. I was connecting with them. I was relating with them. I was sharing. I was able to educate. I was able to inspire them. And I was able to motivate some of them. I think that's what dawned upon me. The fact that my voice was no longer just a sound. It was an actual signal. What I realized is it's not about why I spoke. It was about how I spoke. I realized soon that I could just probably mimic my sound, but it could never take away the soul or the spirit of my voice. And I'm not bashing on AI. AI is fantastic. It's got its uses, it's got its place. But like myself, a lot of artists were not ready for this. Because a lot of the times people think that it's the mundane tasks, the repeatable tasks that might get disrupted by this fantastic technology. But it just so happened that over the last 5 years, it's the creative tasks that got completely moved into the AI world or the AI spectrum. And the regular mundane tasks are still trying to catch up. Your voice is your signature. And I'm not just talking about your voice, it's what you do. That's your signature. That is something that can't be automated entirely. AI can do these things better, but what it can't do is, it can speak, but it can't care. It can narrate, but it can't believe. And it can try to be emotional, but it can't connect. And soon I start finding myself teaching other people how to find their own voices. Not the made-up one, but the actual inner voices. And I keep telling them that even though AI forced me into silence, that silence actually forced me to intention. And that intention forced me to find meaning. And if you ever speak from that place, from a place of meaning, you never have to worry about any machine replacing you. And at the end of the day, there is something that AI can't do, which is essentially speaking your truth in real time. And essentially, isn't that what people want at the end of the day? Be it anyone. Audiences like these, customers, your teachers, your parents, anyone across the globe. What they want is real-time truth, nothing else. So today I believe in something simple. AI can take away my skill, but only you can define your voice. And I use voice very loosely. It can be any skill. So you can replace the word voice with anything that AI could probably replace. The greatest danger of AI is not that it would replace us. It's that we'd probably forget what it is that makes us irreplaceable. And that's what we need to focus on. It forces one to separate what they do from how they do things. And I think that's the gift that I was kind of given with this whole introspective journey of mine. I joke once in a while that AI Anuroop might be perfect, but real Anuroop needs notes. He misses a couple of points here and there, and he probably says stuff that he shouldn't be saying, like today. But I think that's what makes a person memorable. It's the fact that there was a person here that matters. And that the human voice has something known as human error. And human error is something that can never be automated. How much ever you train a model or how much ever data you feed it, human error is something that can never truly be automated. Now if someone asks me, hey, aren't you afraid that AI is going to take away your work? I'd be like, it's already doing that. It's not far away. But what I got in return is far more valuable. That's my gift. Understanding that your imperfection is not a weakness, but it's an actual watermark that matters. There you are. So the one thing that I'd like for you to take away from this, just tying into the whole tradition technology. First off, don't outsource your voiceover work. Send it to us. That's my contact, if at all you feel like it. Beyond that, I think don't automate intent, or don't try to automate intent, because that's something that will sound very fake. Don't let automation define how you express your beliefs, whatever the cost may be. Your voice is something that doesn't start with metrics and data. It doesn't start with models. Your voice Starts with your story, starts with your scars, starts with your lived experiences. It starts with your lived life. And it starts with you. It will always start with you, and it will always end with you. Thank you very much.